Welcome back to another fresh episode of the Daddio Show! Woo! Coming at you live here in my man cave. And see, as the podcast series gets better and better and more people support it, I'll be able to afford some fancy backgrounds and pour profits into this podcast, into the production value, and bring you guys cool backgrounds and better whiteboards and more expensive microphones. But you know what? I'm going to focus on pumping out quality content for you guys, even if I don't have all the bells and whistles and all the prettiness all sorted out ahead of time, because I care too much about you to just sit on these good ideas and keep them from you. So here we go. It's Wednesday. You know what time it is. Time for another fresh episode of the Daddio Show podcast series, only on Partner with Greatness. And I don't know if you've got a Daddio or not, but this is a weekly mentoring session. And I want to holler at you, specifically if you're a young man between the ages of 14 and 24. There's a lot we can discuss, a lot that I can get at you about that's relevant to what you're going through. I too was a young man between 14 and 24 at one time. I'm 36 now, and we've got our first little one on the way in June. We just moved into a new house, feeling crazy, man. Life is moving rapidly here. But all is well. We're super blessed, and I'm so proud and happy of what we've done with this podcast series. See, at Partner with Greatness, we have a youth development platform, and what we do is we help you do a couple things. We help you heal up from damages you may have been dealt in life, like something that messed you up, or it was a hardship that you had to go through, and you've got some trauma or some damage, like you haven't figured out how to move through. We help you heal up from those things, and we help you focus on what you can control, right? Control what you can control instead of getting caught up in the things that you can't control, because there's a lot more of them. And also then moving on to focus on living that most powerful and blessed life possible. Amen, amen. So really happy with this 5-part series. This is going to take us over 5 weeks here. And hopefully you'll have a little bit more time to listen to podcasts with all this corona pandemic craziness going on. But really excited about this. This is the exact coaching process that I take young people through. See, I work at an alternative school. It's a public alternative school. Some people use the term at-risk youth. Others have adopted this term at-promise youth. However you want to slice it there. I work with young people for whom the traditional school environment hasn't really worked that well, and they wound up at my school for one reason or another. And it's a blessing in disguise, because it allows me a lot more ability to work in small groups or one-on-one with the young people that I serve. So with this coaching process, this is how I help young people figure out how to get excited about a vision of something that they can do, that they can realistically achieve, and start to believe in the fact that the decisions they make matter and are taking them towards a future that they can get excited about, where they can be successful and be smart and wise and make an impact. And then not only, maybe have enough sorted out that they've figured out what's on their own plate, but then they can turn around and start to bless some other people and serve some other people and really have a life not just of success, but of purpose and meaning. And it all starts with the big question of what are you going to be when you grow up? We've all heard that 1,000 times. But in today's first episode of this 5-part series, I'm going to just start to crack open this egg of, what's going to happen when you get done with high school, or, what is the next step if you're in early college or early 20s, and you're like, how is my training and my education going to translate into marketable skills and earning dollars in the workplace? Because we live in a society where money is needed to pay bills and keep things going and feed your family and so forth. But then there's also the question of am I going to love or hate what I do? How do I get into a career where I actually enjoy what I'm doing? What separates the winners from the losers in this rapidly changing global marketplace where the jobs that schools train you for are going obsolete almost before you finish high school. I mean, things are changing fast. So I've got this framework of 5 things that are maybe different, but also have a lot in common, whether you choose the employee pathway or the self-employed pathway. And then by the end of the series, we're going to talk about how we're going to keep the main thing because the deal stays the same. And I'm going to tell you what Go Whippy stands for. Go Whippy! Yeah, Whippy! It's a fun little acronym I made up. And now for a brief dance break before we go into the first part of the series. Okay, I'm done. All right. Employee versus self-employed. Okay. So maybe your parents or some people are employees, right? So we all know entry-level jobs at fast food restaurants. We know maybe people who work installing truck bed liners and pickup truck beds. We know people who are in retail, bagging groceries and running cash registers. Okay, so employee. So someone has a company where they sell products, goods, services, whatever, and you work for that person in some capacity, and you either work hourly and make a certain amount of money per hour, and you have so many hours a week that you want to work or that they're going to work you, or you work salary, which means the amount of money you're going to make for that year is set in advance, and the paychecks are set, right? They're going to stay the same each time you get a paycheck. It's going to be the same. It's going to be the same until you get a raise, maybe, or could happen on the other end that you could get demoted or knocked down a peg where all of a sudden you're making less money, which is bad. But most of the time, yeah, it's either hourly or salary. So here's a little fun fact for you, by the way, as we get started here. A lot of times it seems like salary is desirable. It's like, oh yeah, I can't wait until I get to that salary position. I'm tired of being one of these hourly slaves, and you wanna go to that salary position. But here's something interesting about that. A lot of times it's a way for older, wiser business owners to sort of bamboozle younger, more excited, more energetic, hungry employees that are trying to move in the world and do bigger things, because here's what happens. Once you get a salary position, the amount of time that you put in each week is no longer set. And so you're expected to accomplish, see, it'll often come with like a pay bump, a title bump. So you go from like, shift leader to assistant manager, and now you're making salary. But guess what? With greater position, greater titles comes greater responsibility, and you're the one that doesn't get to leave, even though the job isn't done anymore. You're the one that has to stay until everything's put away, until the whole place is ready to shut down. And a lot of those extra responsibilities, things that weren't your problem before, become now your responsibility because it's attached to that title and it's attached to that salary. So I have found that whether I'm doing, teaching high school, which I do from 8 to 4, Monday through Friday, or if I'm doing landscaping, which I do as a side hustle, and I teach that as a vocational elective class at the school, I've found that whether I call myself hourly or I call myself salary, and in like the trade skills world of landscaping and contract work like that, where construction or electrician, plumbing, HVAC, and I'm not sure if the more like computer technological trades do this too. We call it bidding by the job or bidding by the hour, right? So bidding by the hour is that familiar concept of hourly cost. What am I going to charge my client for every hour that I work on the job, versus bidding by the job is like that salary concept, kind of where you just say, hey, you want me to do this mulching job? You want me to, plant these flowers, trim these shrubs, install this mulch, and rake and blow off the whole property with the leaf blower? Okay, instead of me telling you how much I charge per hour, maybe it's my first time working for you, you're a new client, I'm going to say to you, this is what I'm going to charge you, blanket, flat rate. Here's what I'm going to charge you to do the whole thing. And you and I will both just have to see how it pans out, how many hours it takes me. You can keep track, I can keep track, maybe neither of us keep track, and we don't ever talk about it. If you're like a curious client, maybe you can ask me what my hourly rate is, but I may not tell you the first time. I may just say, I'm charging you this much for the job. Do you want to hire me? It'll get done and it'll cost you this much money. Do you want to hire me or not? So let me circle back around here. So what I have found is that if you're doing a side hustle where you can, make a salary or charge by the job or charge by the hour, or if you're in an employment situation where you can do a salary position or an hourly position, I always recommend to young people or to anybody that you try to keep track of a rough estimate of how much your time is worth per hour, right? Because here's the thing that happens, back to this trickery of the salary position. If you lose track of how much money you're making per hour, you may not feel the pain of exactly how much your hourly rate is going down the more hours you work, right? So if I make $1,000 in a week, that's a whole lot sweeter to me if I can accomplish that in 30 or 35 hours versus if I have more responsibility and I'm working this salary position where I don't get to go home until everything's done. All of a sudden my 40-hour, 38-hour work week or whatever, just below full time, has gone from 40 hours to 70 hours. Divide $1,000 by 70. That's a lot different than dividing it by 30 hours. So you get what I'm saying there? So really it diminishes your worth in the marketplace in a sense, because you'll never get that time back. You'll never get back the time that you could have been spending with your family or practicing guitar or going down to the church and helping out with the food pantry and serving the homeless people or XYZ. You get what I'm saying? Time is the only currency, the only commodity that you'll never get back once it's gone. So always keep track of, even if you're in a salary position or if you're bidding something by the job, divide it out real quick and do the math and just keep it on a side note for yourself, even if you don't share it with anybody else, and know, what am I charging for my time here? What's 1 hour of my time worth? And of course your time is priceless, like I said, but that just keep yourself kind of in check. Always stay grounded in reality by knowing that. All right, so employee versus self-employed, either way, keep track of how much your time is worth. So we're familiar with employee. Some other, so self-employed would be like that landscape side hustle where, I might hire a couple guys to run some mulch wheelbarrows for me in my landscaping side hustle, but I'm the one, with the equipment and talking to the clients and getting the jobs and charging the money and getting paid. And if I don't want to hire anybody, I get to keep all the money that I don't spend in materials and stuff, like all the money that's profit I get to keep and, put back into my company or spend or save or reinvest or whatever. Self-employed. So it's like, yeah, I want to have that side hustle. I want to be self-made. I want independence and freedom. And I want to be my own boss. I don't want anybody telling me what to do. So what you'll find though, if you do it long enough, if you work in the working world long enough, sometimes employees are actually people who like ran their own thing for a decade or two. Like you could have a master electrician who used to run his own electrical company, and he just decided, like I'm X amount of years from retirement. I'm like 5 years from retirement. I'm just going to go ahead and hang up my company now and like sell my company or just kind of like scale it back and not do it as much. And I'm just going to go back into the workforce as an employee and work for another electrician company guy, because I don't want the headaches anymore. I don't want to have to deal with the billing and the invoices and the payroll and the contracts and ordering backup equipment and dealing with vendors and that's the thing about being self-employed. you have to grow yourself unless you have some massive amount of like money you inherited to start your company, like all this capital, what they call capital. It's like just cash money that you can use to put into something to start a business and have all the front end cash that you need to buy all the equipment it takes to do that type of work, or buy a vehicle that it takes to do that type of work, or like have your first couple weeks payroll covered by this chunk of money that you started with. Most people don't have that luxury. They can take out a small business loan or whatever, but you're pretty much starting small scale. You and one other person, or just you alone, and you're building it from the ground up. So you have to wear all those hats. You have to be the accounting guy. You have to be the the worksheet guy, and the marketing guy, and the sales guy, and you're the technician on the ground doing the actual work too. So think about that. Self-employed is not cut out for everybody. It sounds magical, and there are magical moments, but there's a gentleman by the name of Darren Hardy, and he was the editor and publisher of a magazine called Success Magazine. In his early 20s, he was breaking records in the real estate office. That he was surrounded by all these guys that were older and more experienced, other realtors, but he was crushing their records because he was just such a obsessively hard worker. He's a genius when it comes to business and growing businesses and investing money and all this stuff. Well, he wrote this. He's so passionate about entrepreneurs, which means self-employed people who start out on their own with their own crazy idea for their product or service, and that they want to sell to the marketplace because somebody needs it and it can help some people, so they're going to make a living doing that one thing, making money off of that. Entrepreneurs is what's that called, what those people are called. He wrote a book called The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster. Now, why is it called a roller coaster? Because it's got such extreme ups and downs, man. People are canceling contracts on you and trying to take you to court and la 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 la, and then I just nailed this amazing piece of business, and I gained 2 new partners this week, and the cash flow just went up, and the economy just bumped, and oh no, then something else happened. So it's the entrepreneur roller coaster. You're never just that. That's a big reason why a lot of people like being an employee, because somebody makes your schedule, decides what the skills are that you need to know, trains you on how to do it, shows you how to do it. They'll take care of your stuff if you need something, and they're taking care of all the headaches that you shouldn't have to deal with because you're an employee. It's not your baby. It's not your baby, right? Like the self-employed person, it's their baby. They're the one holding all the eggs if anything happens. They have ultimate responsibility because it was their idea. They signed up for it. The employee, he didn't really sign up for a lot of that stuff. It's just and that's kind of my criticism of the employee-only mindset. I think everybody should have some sort of side hustle, some sort of, I talked about this on a live video on my Facebook page the other day about the fact that, not making light of it, but unfortunately this whole coronavirus thing has left a lot of people feeling stranded or feeling frozen in the water because they were getting their money, their income from one source, one type of paycheck doing one type of thing, and they let themselves kind of get so comfortable with that now there's no other way for them to make money to make it through a hard time for their family and keep their family fed. You know what I'm saying? And on top of that, most Americans are fiscally irresponsible, and, most American households cannot survive $1,000 emergency. Think about that. $1,000 hit is all it takes to just topple most American families. And then, you're not making the bills that month. You didn't see it coming. Life threw you a curveball. Hey, coronavirus, here you go. And then people are like, whoa, if the government doesn't send me $1,000 hardship check, I can't stay in my house for the next month or whatever, So my heart goes out to people who are struggling, but it also is a healthy dose of wake-up call, because we should all have something that the idea is to build enough income and have enough, saved away by making money and not spending everything you make, that you have security. And if something happens that your insurance can't cover, And it's just a curveball of life that it leaves you dealing with it on your own, that you're not sunk and all of a sudden your family doesn't have a roof over their head or groceries on the table, you know. But on your way to that, you know, if you don't have that amount of money saved up yet, you know, the next best thing, and something you should never lose, in my opinion, and some of the hardcore elite, like high-level entrepreneurs who are worth, you know, billions and stuff, they say you should only focus on one thing and not have backup plans, because that's the only way to be successful. Is if, like, you know, I don't have a backup plan, so this better work out, so I'm going to make it work out. And my crazy idea is going to survive, and I'm going to end up turning it into a business. Okay, that's one way to look at it. I personally think that there's nothing wrong for most working people who don't have like lofty aspirations to be worth millions or billions of dollars. If you just want to have enough for your family to survive, and you want to have a financial wall around your family that, you know, most disasters can't touch, it's enough security so you can make it through hard times. I think it's a great idea to always have a side hustle, a service you can provide. Like, I'm really good at mulching flower beds. I'm really good at landscaping. I don't do it all year round, but you know what? If we need to buy extra diapers this month, or you know, I need to buy some shin guards and send my baby to soccer camp, yeah, I could draw out of my savings that we're saving up, or I could take on a few side jobs this weekend and drum up a couple $100 or $1,000, and then there's my little play money, you know. Or this guy that's I talked about in my video the other day. He's a pastor, and he makes custom built wooden tables and sells those on Facebook to people who contact him and ask him for a table. And he uses the money to finance mission trips for his church. But I was thinking, and that's what got me going on the video, was just the idea of like, you know, if he wanted to, he could just charge the money for the table and keep it. If he like lost his pastor job, if he got fired as a preacher, shoot, he's still making hundreds of dollars a pop off these tables. How many tables can I make this month? Boom, my family's still going to eat, you know. So my topic of my video was, you know, which table can you sell? Like, everybody can sell something if they need to. You know, you like, you know, a single mom whose husband died in the war, and, you know, like, she's got no options and can't afford daycare unless she does something. She's going to find a way to make it work, bro. And not to say stereotypical, like women can't help themselves, or like it's always got to be the single mom, not the single dad. I'm not saying that at all, but you get my point. With enough pressure placed on you, you can get creative and find a way. Like if losing is not an option, you're going to make it work. Am I right? Amen or amen. All right, so employee, self-employed. We're going to go ahead and cut it off. We're going to make this a 6-part series, bruh, because this little wind-up was well worth our time. So be thinking about employee or self-employed. Which one are you better suited for? We'll get it next time. We'll get into soft skills, and then the following week we'll get into reputation, add value, move the needle, vision, and belief. And we'll wrap up with the deal stays the same and go whippy. But be thinking about, am I better suited to be an employee? Do I want to have like, you know, fewer risks, but also maybe just kind of depending on somebody else to pay my, you know, my paycheck? Maybe I'm getting a little bit too comfortable here as an employee. I'm not pursuing my own growth and development and finding out my side hustle and having a little something going on for myself. Do I want to be, you know, crazy and have like a part-time side hustle that I'll do on top of my full-time job? And then if this gets successful enough, I'm able to quit my full-time job and go full-time doing my side hustle. You know, maybe I want to run like a custom, you know, tattoo shop. Maybe I want to open my own mechanic auto body shop or something. I mean, people who go to college to be mechanics, they definitely have a pathway that's wide open to split either way. You know, they could work in somebody else's body shop or mechanic shop all their lives, or they could go straight out of their training and get their certification and boom, take out a little loan and open their own shop. You know, do you want to be the one to call the shots? Do you have a problem like following directions from others? Do you want to be the one to kind of make it all spelled out and do it the way that you want it done because your standard is the one that you trust? You can't really trust anybody else's standards for quality work. Think about that. Ask some people that interview some people. Use this downtime when you're not in school to ask some good questions here. Ask yourself some good questions. We'll talk about the skills that it takes. These are some of the mindsets and the concerns that come along with each one. But I haven't even gotten into the skills that it takes. Which way am I pointing? Where are you at? I haven't even gotten into the skills that having too much fun here. That it takes to be successful as an employee or as a self-employed person. I've just basically covered like the hopes and the downfalls. Like the limitations and the concerns and the problems you have to face with either one. Maybe some of the benefits too, but the skills, the skills. This is really what's going on. What are the skills that no one can ever take away from you? What are the skills that are commonly not taught enough in schools? What are the skills that transfer from industry to industry, from workplace to workplace, from job type to job type, and they never die, they never go out of style, they keep you from being replaced by robots, they keep your job to some extent from being shipped overseas. Come on now, soft skills, baby. All right, so join me next time. Hope you all enjoyed this introductory episode into what has apparently become a 6-part series. And we're going to keep rocking. We're going to keep on cranking out the Daddio Show podcast series, brought to you only on Partner with Greatness. So if you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend. Be sure and head on over to partnerwithgreatness.com, where I'm building that website as a resource for you guys, a youth development platform, a growth platform for young champions out there trying to become the best version of themselves and change the world at the same time. Or maybe just change yourself, change your family, change the future of your loved ones. All right, I'm out. Harding Ison-Bowman. Catch y'all later.